Tom Potter for his State of the City address for 2006. A few announcements and a reminder to please turn your cell phones down and paging devices off, please. I'd like to welcome some new members attending here today. I'd like to welcome Sarek Brahm, Joyce DeMonin, Jim Eichmann, Kathy Lamb Hickman, Pete Odell, Cheryl Reed, Kuke Van Benschoten, and Gavin White. Would you join me in welcoming our new members? Now, going to the opposite extreme, I'd like to wish a happy 96th birthday to Monroe Sweetland, who has been a member of the club since the 1930s. Happy birthday, Monroe. So you too can embark on a long City Club membership. We're waiving our usual $25 new member initiation fee for those who join us today. And if you join today, you can also ask questions. Margaret Eichmann will be available at the end of the program with membership brochures, so I'd encourage you to consider joining. On your way out, we'll be handing out stickers that say, "Ask me about the state of the city." What we're hoping to do is to spread today's conversation out farther into the community. So please pick up a sticker and wear it this afternoon. Just some upcoming events to note. Next Friday's Forum's program on January 27th is Raising Opportunity, where investments in early childhood programs makes a difference. We'll have Lisa Pellegrino, Program Director of Portland Children's Investment Fund, Diane Yakmanoff, a professor at Portland State University, Margaret McLeod, co-director of outpatient services at the Morrison Child and Family Services, and the program will be moderated by Judge Nan Waller. By now, you've probably heard about the City Club's newest research report, Portland's Fire and Police Pension and Disability Fund, Time for a Change. City Club released the electronic version of this report online on Tuesday, and printed copies will be distributed in next week's bulletin. We've scheduled a presentation of the report by the members of the research committee. That discussion will be at City Club Commons on Wednesday, February 1st at 5:15. The committee members will discuss their findings and answer questions from City Club members. Because space is limited, please RSVP to the City Club office. At our February 3rd Friday Forum, the club members will debate and vote on the conclusions and recommendations of this report. It's important to understand that until the membership vote, the City Club of Portland does not have an official position on this report. The outcome of the vote will be reported in the bulletin dated February 17th, 2005, and on the City Club website. City Club research, such as this new report on the FPDNR, is one of the City Club's most valuable forms of civic engagement. And there's no better example of how City Club research makes an impact than last year's study on the Portland Development Commission. Sue Thomas, who was the original chair of that study and is now chairing the PDC Advocacy Committee, has asked me to tell you about another special event coming up. One of the study committee's specific concerns was PDC's outreach to the public. The City Club asked PDC to make more efforts to listen to citizen concerns and incorporate them into the organization's decision-making. Sue says the PDC is making efforts, and we're watching, but we should also help. So PDC has asked the City Club for help in gaining public input on where it should be spending its money. The Advocacy Committee is hosting a citizen conversation with Mark Murray, Chief Financial Officer of the Portland Development Commission, on Tuesday, January 21st, from 5:15 to 7 o'clock at City Club Commons. Of course, all of these events can be found online and in the club bulletin, and you can listen to today's program online as well, or order audio CDs and videotapes. Our sponsors this quarter, who make broadcast of City Club possible, are McEwen Gisvold LLP and Medico Support Services of the Northwest. Would you join me in thanking our sponsors? To our program. Tom Potter is completing his first year as Portland's mayor. He ran for election to return to public life after retiring as our police chief in 1993. As police chief, as a candidate, and now as mayor, Tom Potter established and clearly enjoys a reputation for promoting change and promoting community. As chief of police, Tom Potter championed the vision of engaging Portland citizens in its law enforcement. These became the principles of community policing that remain the city's standards for its police bureau. He is remembered for being the first police chief to march in uniform in the city's Gay Pride Day parade. As candidate for mayor last year, Tom Potter announced that he would limit campaign contributions to $25. In doing so, he elevated the debate about public financing of city elections. When he took office, the new mayor took control of all city bureaus. He then set the 4 city commissioners to the assignment of examining city services and writing new budget proposals before receiving back their new assignments. As he reached out to the community to redefine policing, he is now asking the community to engage in a new vision for Portland. He's designed the Portland Visioning Project to reach out to thousands of Portlanders to define a strategic plan for the city. At the same time, he has established a city charter review commission to examine Portland's governance and propose the first major revisions to the city's charter in 80 years. We're very pleased that Mayor Potter joins us today at the City Club to discuss his visions for our community and his plans to see them happen. Welcome, Mayor Potter.
Thank you, Doug. And I was applauding like everybody else for Monroe Sweetland's 96th birthday. Monroe, I want you to know that the last time the city charter was reviewed, you were 12 years old. As most of you can tell, I have a cold. I'm not trying to imitate Marlene Dietrich. And that I may cough from time to time, and so I just want to apologize now before I begin. I want to recognize some of the folks in this room. I appreciate all of you being here today. I think this is an exciting time for our city. I'd first like to recognize our United States Representative in Congress, Earl Blumenauer. Earl, could you stand? I'd also like to recognize my partners at City Council, the commissioners of the City of Portland, Eric Sten, Dan Salzman, could you folks stand? Sam Adams, and Randy Leonard. And there's another partner we have at City Council that sits quietly by the side sometimes, but always has good observations and comments and recommendations, and that's our City Auditor, Gary Blackmer. Gary? We also have Multnomah County represented here today by Serena Cruz. Serena, where are you? There she is over there. We have a lot of city employees. I'd like to especially recognize Chief Derek Foxworth. Chief, where are you? And Fire Chief Dave Sprando. Dave, where are you? I think Portland is better served with public servants like Derek and Dave. And I'd also like to recognize some of our union folks. Robert King with the Portland Police Association is here. And I understand that Jack Fenders with the fire union was going to be here, but he's out sick today. The members from Portland Development Commission, our partners in economic development, could you please stand? Well, so much for the mayor telling PDC what to do. I'd like to next introduce my wife, Karen Hansen, my partner. She's my strongest supporter and my strongest critic, and I really appreciate her. I'd like to have the mayor's office staff please stand and be recognized as a group. You do a wonderful job. Thank you. You know, I think the mark of a true leader is to represent and surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. And this particular staff is absolutely great. Of course, some say the bar's not that high anyway. And I see a lot of our city employees. Could all of the city employees in the city of Portland please stand? Everybody please stand. There is somebody watching the shop, isn't there? Well, I want to thank the City Club and its members for inviting me here to address you today and giving me the opportunity to talk with you about the city we all care about. When you sit down to draft your first State of the City speech, it's often helpful to look back over the past year at the words of wisdom of others who've offered you inspiration and guidance. So I first thought to myself, in a situation like this, what would Tim Boyle say? Instead, I had to say instead, I decided what I really want to speak to you about today is something that's very much on my heart, which is my deeply held belief that as a community and a country, we must rekindle the spirit of working together for the common good. I want to offer both a prognosis and a prescription for the health and well-being of our beloved city. I first want to take a few minutes and tell you what has happened in the last 12 months and discuss what I hope we can accomplish together in the next 12. But my real interest today is beginning a conversation about what kind of community I would like Portland to be in the future. My first year as Portland's, and we have a disagreement in the office, I'm either the 45th, 46th, or 50th mayor. It's been humbling, it's been exhilarating, and it's been exhausting. It's been filled with challenges, such as learning how to count to 3. My math teacher, Commissioner Randy Leonard, has helped me with that particular point, and I really appreciate that. It just takes 3 commissioners to make something pass and happen on City Council. But I am uplifted every time a Portlander stops me, wanting nothing more than to share how much they love our city and tell me their hopes for its future and their determination that it continue to be a special place. I came into office believing that our city government needed to become more efficient with the money taxpayers entrust to us, and more focused on serving our customers, you. We needed to become more transparent and accountable and more welcoming to those who want to get involved in making Portland a better place. Our regional neighbors wanted a city government that was seen as a partner, not as something to be feared, or worse, simply indifferent to their needs. Most important, I wanted to reconnect government to its people by placing the community at the heart of a civic governance process that ultimately shapes how our neighborhoods grow, the quality of our schools, the health of our economy, and the safety of our streets. So I've spent much of the first year as mayor requiring the city to look inward, examining what we do now and what must be done differently, and through working with my colleagues on the council, making changes that are sometimes difficult but ultimately necessary. 1 year later, I feel these changes unfolding all around us. We have unleashed the collective energy and creativity of the talented people in our bureaus in the most sweeping reevaluation of the city government in more than 30 years. We began by asking those on the front lines, our city workers, what they thought we could do better to serve citizens. They were eager to help, and from this beginning came 20 Bureau Innovation Project goals, each furthering our core objectives: to serve our customer better, to create more cost-effective ways of working together with our community partners, and to increase diversity. The Bureau Innovation Project is changing our contracting practices to make them more fair, open, and efficient, as well as more accessible to businesses owned by women and minorities. We are creating ways to measure the performance of our employees and formalizing how we bring citizen engagement into everything we do. It will reinvigorate citizen participation by returning our neighborhood system to the grassroots organization so prized and praised when it was created, and save money and time by creating efficiencies in our maintenance functions and streamlining bureaus. We are recruiting a city workforce that more closely reflects the people we serve, and we are training every manager and supervisor in supervisory and management skills, but also to understand the different cultures and unique needs of our 5,300 employees. I am working with Chief Foxworth to ensure that community policing becomes a priority for every person in the Portland Police Bureau. Despite what you see every night before turning off the television news, in 2005, crime went down 8% in the city of Portland. That is always welcoming news, but it is only a start. We will require our officers to fully engage the community, their true partners, in making our streets safer by working together and listening to the wisdom and experience in our neighborhoods and businesses. In the next 18 months, Chief Foxworth and I will require community policing practices be a key part of the job description for every Bureau employee, and no officer will be promoted without a proven commitment to them. Community policing will be integrated into annual in-service training, the Advanced Academy, and field training. We will establish an Office of Professional Standards, which will not only assist officers, but hold them accountable as well. The Chief has embarked on the accreditation process to ensure police are using best practices and standards from around the country, and we will make the police more diverse. And important to our community, precincts will once again be open at night and on the weekends, times when the community most often needs them. And let me scotch a rumor again. Chief Derek Foxworth will continue to be the Chief of Police in Portland, period. Now, could someone help wipe that grin off Derek's face? In the past year, how and why we spend the taxpayers' money has been brought into the light of day. Working with commissioners, budget work groups now meet in public with citizen advisors and community workshops playing a real role in determining Portland's priorities. I want to thank my fellow city commissioners for working more collaboratively in a public process, making decisions together about such critical infrastructure issues as the future of our water, sewers, roads, and parks, decisions that were once left to individual commissioners. We are working more closely with the Portland Development Commission and clarifying roles. I want to thank the City Club for their thorough analysis of PDC. The Commission has implemented a number of your recommendations, such as more clearly delineating the distinct roles of planning and implementation when develop economic strategies. Projects such as the Burnside Bridgehead have been instructive, and in November, the PDC adopted its first public participation policy and has hired 3 community outreach coordinators. Since becoming mayor, I have appointed 3 new PDC commissioners and have helped in the selection of the new executive director. They join a commission that shares my unwavering commitment to accountability, inclusion, and transparency. They also share my desire to have a PDC that will be more focused on helping start and grow small businesses, especially those owned by minority and women entrepreneurs. That is why we have announced 2 new loan programs this year, aimed at providing those entrepreneurs not only funding, but just as important, the technical assistance they need to succeed. PDC understands, as I do, that our city can only be truly healthy when every neighborhood is economically vibrant and every Portland has an equal opportunity to create their own version of the American dream. Toward that end, I will be working with Commissioner Eric Stinn and PDC this year on a minority home ownership campaign. In Portland, only a third of minorities own their homes compared to 6 in 10 whites. That's not acceptable, and we will be working with the community to find ways to end this disparity. We have reached out to our neighbors in the region, knowing that the day when Portland could go its own ways are gone forever. One of my first days in office, I drove over to Vancouver to meet with Mayor Royce Pollard. As I remember, I took him a Starbucks coffee mug. I'm not sure what he did with it. I have continued to meet with other mayors in their towns around the region and across the state, talking about their concerns and how we can work together. I believe the only way we can succeed is by collaborating as leaders of a strong region, not as competitors fighting over the same opportunities. I know what is good for Intel in Hillsborough is good for business in Portland. I cannot for a moment pretend that we have rebuilt every bridge. For instance, one reason I believe the city's attempt to buy PGE failed was the distrust of our neighboring areas, who simply wondered what Portland was really up to. But I also believe that the first seeds of trust have been planted, and our future of working together looks bright. In October, I spent 5 days on the road taking this collaborative message to Eastern Oregon, finding not only great people, but people who share so many of the same issues with us: how to fund our schools, the devastating effects of meth and other drugs, and how to best build healthy economies and healthy families. I am going to continue to travel the state with the goal of forging a coalition of Oregon mayors who will demand change in Salem, a place that has been more successful at dividing Oregonians than making us stronger. Obviously, some events did divide our community. It has been 9 months since the Portland Police Bureau officers were pulled from the federal Joint Terrorism Task Force. In that time, I have asked, and I have been given no concrete indication that our community's safety has been compromised anyway as a result of that decision. I remain concerned that Enron's failure to negotiate in good faith for the purchase of PGE leaves our ratepayers and our businesses vulnerable to outside takeover specialists who have no interest other than making a fast buck at Oregon's expense. And I am going to call for an independent audit of the South Waterfront aerial tram. Not to point fingers, but to find the best way to avoid this kind of situation in the future and be better protectors of the people's money. Now, at the end of this first year, I believe we are in a position to build on this beginning and to turn our gaze outward, more fully engaging our citizens in the work ahead. Most pressing for me today is finding the money to save our schools from the failure of our legislature to do its constitutionally mandated job. Next week, I will call for a temporary, citywide income tax to save our schools. I know the polls echo the concerns of Portlanders worried about any new taxes. But when I consider the choices, I also know that an investment in our children is not only the right thing to do, it is the only thing to do. For me, doing nothing is not an option. It would be irresponsible of us to gamble away the future of the next generation just to teach our legislators that it is their responsibility to adequately fund our schools. We can't afford to play with the lives of our children that way or to gamble with Portland's economic viability and future. Ultimately, business, political, and community leaders across our state must come together and demand real change in Salem, Oregon. But until that day, I believe we must do whatever it takes to keep Portland school doors open for our children. Saving our schools is also an important part of a smart business strategy, and especially critical as our regional economy, currently the nation's 10th fastest growing economy, gains momentum. In the year ahead, we need to do a better job of celebrating this vitality and building on it. Companies like KinderCare and Keen Footwear, Haba Cosmetics, Coaxis Software, and IKEA are not only excited about being our new neighbors, they're bringing hundreds of jobs with them. Macy's is spending millions of dollars to transform the old Myron Frank department store, and just as important, keeping it in a downtown that remains the envy of most American cities. By the way, I agree with Jerry Frank that the block that Macy's will sit on should be called Myron Frank Square, and I'm going to make that happen. How we nurture our current businesses and recruiting new ones are topics of my monthly meetings with the Governor, Metro Chairman David Bragdon, and Bill Wyatt of the Port of Portland. And I spend time each month in the offices of local companies, learning their needs and offering help. 2 weeks ago, for instance, I visited Open Source Development Labs in Beaverton and met with CEO Stuart Cohen and learned more about the work he is doing to grow open source technology in our region. OSDL members are working to build a high-tech system in Oregon that creates businesses and jobs and improves government efficiency. Later this year, Portland State University and Oregon State University will open a new open source research and education facility here in Portland. And national open source conventions are scheduled to meet here for the next 3 years. I'll be honest with you, I don't understand everything that the technical jargon these guys talk about their industry. But I do understand that the direction they are heading is what is good for Portland and this region. They want a partner to help recruit to our area more of those creative, high-tech firms and workers. And I can think of no easier sell than Portland to those young, innovative minds in Des Moines and St. Pete. So I will be working with the City Council, Portland Development Commission, and OSDL to grow this important part of our community. For we must capitalize on these kinds of business opportunities which recognize Portland's unique strengths and qualities. The Portland Development Commission and the city's Office of Sustainable Development, for instance, have identified more than 500 local companies working on some aspect of the sustainable industry. Portland is a center for activity for the $6 billion green building products and services market, for clean, renewable energy providers, recycled products, and sustainable agriculture. Helping these businesses prosper, help the environment and the economy, and just makes sense for our city. I also know that our business community bridles under taxes that they believe are unfair, and I'm committed to a public discussion about these taxes. The City Council will ask our business leaders to join us this year in a conversation with the community about what we must do to give business the tools they need to create more family wage jobs. But changes will only come if business leaders, political leaders, and the community work as partners. This year will also see a committee of citizens undertake the first complete examination of Portland's charter in more than 80 years. I am very pleased that Charles Wilhoit has agreed to be the chair of this important committee. We will be asking a great deal of this dynamic group to look at Portland's commission form of government, civil service, and PDC. Their work will join much-needed reforms being proposed to the pension and disability system for our firefighters and police officers. By the way, I want to thank the City Club for the changes it's proposed earlier this week, and the City Council this week gave to a committee that's going to implement the change copies of your report. The City Council has created a committee to study these ideas, and that they are going to bring the ideas back to Council so that we can get them on the November 2006 election cycle. I've also launched the Community Visioning Project, which I believe will be one of the most important things I do as mayor, and which can only succeed if the community joins me in owning both the process and the outcomes. The easiest explanation for why I believe so strongly in this idea comes from one of my favorite books, Alice in Wonderland. It's a book I would highly recommend to anyone interested in government service. When Alice asked the Cheshire Cat which path she should take, he replied with a smile, "That depends a good deal on where you want to go." I think the city too often has followed Alice without a clear vision of where we want to go or asking the community about the kind of Portland it wants. I believe the Vision Project will create a community-owned roadmap that can show us the way for at least the next 30 years. Planners have a nice phrase for this: creating the intentional city, a purposeful and thoughtful city that grows not only from opportunity, but from people's dreams and what they are willing to do with government to make their dreams happen. I know there is some skepticism, and I believe that's probably a nice word, about the visioning process. I know there are people who believe these kinds of efforts are always doomed to molder or sit on a bookshelf somewhere. And when I say I want to hear the voices of 100,000 Portlanders in this process over the next year, even my own staff gets a little nervous. I don't share their nervousness, and I don't think the people of Portland do either. I heard very clearly on the campaign trail and every day since that we can tap our community's energy and ideas to chart an intentional future that is far superior to a future left to chance. And that future will soon be here. There will be 1 million more people in the Portland area in the next 20 years. We need to plan for that growth and increasing diversity, linking the choices we make today to the needs we will have tomorrow. And we need to make sure that every segment of the community has a strong voice in the process, especially those whose voices have been too often drowned out or ignored altogether. Finally, while the Vision Project is important because it will link government's actions to a destiny chosen by the community, it is close to me for another reason, an even more basic reason. I started today by saying that I really wanted to speak with you about what is on my heart and what kind of community I'd like to see for Portland. Mayors are often remembered for what they build, but I believe the built environment's highest purpose is in serving the values and vision of the community. Our true legacy, to paraphrase Adlai Stevenson, is best judged how we will have taken care of our young, our elderly, and those who are unable to care for themselves. I know I'm talking to the choir today, but I also know that you will take this message. In fact, we have little name tags to remind you. Take this message we are sharing here to the larger community. My hope is that when you do, some in your audience will feel good about the legacy they are creating, and others uncomfortable. I also want to talk to you today about some special people I want to introduce now. The actions that they have taken speak far more eloquently than I ever could about working for the common good. First, let me introduce Roy Pittman. Roy, could you stand up? Roy's over there. I've known Roy about 20 or 25 years, and he is one of the bedrock people in our community. Roy has run the Peninsula Park Wrestling Program for over 30 years, and his young people have won hundreds of international, national, and regional wrestling championships. But Roy just doesn't teach young men and women how to wrestle. He teaches them how to be the best person they can be. Youth leaving his program believe in themselves and others, and have a strong sense of responsibility to their community, and are taught to never accept the obstacles that are placed in their way. Through Roy, thousands of Portland children are achieving their true potential. Thank you, Roy. Polly Bangs, would you please stand up? There's Polly back there. Polly Bangs owns Pasta Bangs Restaurant on North Mississippi. Working with New Avenues for Youth, Outside In, the Native American Youth Association, and Open Meadows Alternative High School, Polly hires and trains homeless youth who learn basic business skills by working in her kitchen and dining room. Polly calls this social entrepreneurship, and she tutors these young people on resume building and job hunting skills. Polly also trains the permanent staff at Pasta Bangs, teaching them the importance of being positive adult role models. This partnership has trained 45 young people and given everyone involved in this special opportunity to work and build positive relationships. Thank you, Polly. Keelong Ung, would you please stand? I met Keelong Ung in a parking lot of a bookstore. And he came up to me and said, you're the mayor, aren't you? I said, yeah. He said, I want you to come to my meeting. He didn't say, would you come? He said, I want you to come to my meeting. Keelong is a hard guy to say no to. Keelong Ung is the president of the Cambodian American Community Organization. Keelong is a survivor of the Khmer Rouge and founder of KU Consulting. But his community is his first passion. He not only helps preserve Cambodian heritage, culture, and language for each new generation, but is teaching Cambodian American youth how to become the next generation of leaders. Keelong and the Cambodian American Community Organization have helped hundreds of refugees and immigrants toward self-sufficiency while honoring and preserving their culture. Thank you, Keelong. Now, Polly, I noticed you sat down. You have to stand back up with the rest of these folks. She's very bashful. Nathan Corser, could you please stand? There's Nathan. Nathan is an ex-New Yorker whose family came to Portland 10 years ago looking for a smaller community with a strong commitment to public schools and a community life no more than a bicycle ride away. They did just that in Irvington, where 10-year-old Owen and 7-year-old Eleanor attend Irvington Elementary School. They also found that school was in need of help. Nathan and his wife, Kristen Miner, were there for the spaghetti dinners and fundraisers and the PTA meetings. But maintenance of the school was an early casualty of budget cuts. So on his own, Nathan started taking his broom to the playground on Sundays and cleaning up. He raked leaves and spread wood chips, cleaned up broken glass, and fixed water fountains. Neighbors noticed and stopped to talk to Nathan about schools, about their community, and about helping. Now, Nathan is joined on many Sundays by a small group that tackles whatever job they see, interested in only making their school a better place for kids to learn. Thank you all. In the last 12 months, I have witnessed many other acts of selflessness, like those epitomized by Roy and Polly, Keelong and Nathan. Our community rallied around 1,000 strangers sent to us by Hurricane Katrina, offering them blankets and shelter and hope. Just 3 days ago, hundreds of volunteers showed up for Project Homeless Connect at Memorial Coliseum. They not only helped those most in need, they also reminded us that our community is better off when we are all cared for. But while these are wonderful examples, I believe we are allowing a few dedicated people to stand in as proxies for the rest. Too many people think it is someone else's job, someone else's responsibility to step up and change what they know in their heart needs changing. There is simply no other way to explain how we as a community can let 1 out of 5 children go to bed hungry every night in Oregon, or allow 17,000 children in this county to not have adequate health care, or to live with the fact that half of our homeless are families, often working families and single moms stuck in jobs that don't provide living wages or benefits. And of course, there are the seniors, tucked away, out of sight in our nursing homes. That is why I believe that reigniting in each of us that sense of working together for the common good is the real challenge that our city faces in 2006 and beyond. We live in a world where there are more problems than resources for government alone to fix. But our problems, no matter how seemingly intractable, can be made better by a community that truly cares about each other and believes it can work together to solve problems. But to get there, we must start by acknowledging that the solution begins inside of each of us, not government, not someone else, but each of us. The old model where citizens make up their individual wish list and elected officials decide whose wishes will be granted is not only broken, it is bankrupt. But a community that dreams together will share not only an optimism about the future, but the determination and the means to create it. I believe when that happens, Portland will truly become a city where people don't ask why there's a problem, but rather than what we can do to fix it. What can we do to fix and drive meth from our neighborhoods? What can we do together to create the best schools possible for our children? What can we do together to serve and help every family find an affordable home and living wage jobs? What can we do together to be a city that dreams big and has the will to make those dreams come true? That is the message that is in my heart today. Am I being a Pollyanna to think this is possible? I don't think so. After living most of my life in Portland, I truly believe all of this is within our reach. Can we do it? To answer that question requires us only to imagine what will happen if we don't. Can we do it? Yes, if we take care of each other, strive for justice, and remember that anything worthwhile we have done with our lives could only be done because of others. Thank you.
We'll now open the floor to questions from City Club members. There are 2 microphones on either side of the room. We'll have to adjourn the meeting at 1:15, so when I stand up to cut the questions off, I hope you'll forgive me. Our first question will be asked by our board host, Chris Smith. Chris is lead internet technologist for the Xerox Office Group. Chris has been a City Club member since 1991. He chaired the Measure 6 ballot measure study in 2000, and for the past 3 years chaired the Advocacy and Awareness Board. Chris?
Well, Mayor Potter, you made reference to 2 City Club reports in your remarks, and I'm happy to tell you that City Club will keep helping direct community focus on your issues. We have 2 reports coming out this spring, one on education finance and one on early childhood development. I think a lot of people in this room might be surprised if my question wasn't about voter-owned elections, so I'm not going to disappoint you. Voter-owned elections is likely to be on our May ballot based on signatures turned in for a repeal. Interestingly, the repeal proponents have tried to conflate voter-owned elections with education finance, and I want to ask about your thoughts on that. First, some of their signature gatherers mistakenly told people that it directed funds from taxes for schools into voter-owned elections, which it does not. More recently, they've said that having the city spending $1 million or so a year on public financing of elections is going to make it harder to make the case for school funding. I'd love your thoughts on how you think about those two issues together and how you might suggest the voters think about those.
First of all, I strongly support voter-owned elections. To me, I advised some business people the other day that I will fight them tooth and nail because I believe this is so important to our community. Not only does it provide opportunities to people who would otherwise not be able to run for public office because they don't have the contacts, but it also levels the playing field and it takes out the one thing that I believe has corrupted politics in America more than anything else: money. Some people say that by having this repeal of voter-owned elections on the same ballot as a proposed city income tax might confuse the voters or have them face a difficult choice. That's baloney. I would hope we had more confidence in our voters than that. After all, they are able to stand up and chew gum at the same time, and I believe in Portland, Oregon, we've got educated voters, people who understand the issues, understand the importance both of children and also putting people into elected office by the most appropriate and the most morally right means.
My name is Stuart Newberger. I'm an 8th grader at Oregon Episcopal School and an honorary member of the City Club. I would like you to please explain your position on bringing professional baseball to Portland.
I love those slow pitches. First of all, I would love to have a professional baseball team in Portland. I would love to have a professional football team in Portland. We just got the first professional lacrosse team in Portland. Now, ask me who should pay for it. Let me tell you, not the voters and not the citizens of the city of Portland. When I was asked about that question, when the Marlins were up here, after they had left, I was talking to the media, and one of the media asked me about the level of support that I thought was out there for having a professional baseball team in Portland sponsored and paid for by the city of Portland and the state of Oregon. I said, well, you know, quite frankly, I don't think there's much interest out there at all. And I only judge that on one thing, and that's the one letter that I received during the course of the last 12 months about this issue. But that's an excellent question, and I think that the City Club should make you a full-time member, not an honorary member.
Hello, my name is Greg Raisman, and I'm curious, there's a strong theme about Portland as a family-friendly city that's really been an important part of the dialogue as we look at our demographic shifts. And I'm really curious, what are the things that you see happening that you think really strengthen Portland's ability to demonstrate ourselves as a family-friendly city? And what elements do you think we really need to focus on and strengthen in order to attract and retain families to stay here for the long term?
Thank you, Greg. That's an excellent question, and there are a lot of people in this room who have parts of the answers, but I can tell you what I think, how we are doing as a Portland family-friendly city. I don't think I would give us an A, But I think that we're making a real effort to find more affordable housing for families so that families don't have to migrate out to the suburbs to take their children and put them in school. Last year, 2,200 children left the Portland Public School District to go to other areas to help their children find a better place for education and to find affordable housing. I believe that we've got some of the best educational school districts in the state of Oregon right here in Portland, Oregon, and I want to keep our children in our schools. And that means that we've got to find more affordable housing, that we have to ensure and follow that up with living wage jobs and benefits. Too many of our children are not covered for health care. I believe that we've got to create a strong economy that attracts businesses to Portland who are willing to give back to the community, both in terms of benefits, child care, and other areas. I think we need to emphasize to our businesses coming to Portland that that is their moral and ethical obligation to our children. And I think that we need to keep our schools strong. And that's why I can't turn my back on this issue. We have worked at the state, we have worked regionally, we have worked within the county. And it's come down to this, folks. Portland is by ourselves on this, but we can come together because we know the very question that Greg is asking, how do we keep us family friendly? We've got to find the solution to our schools in order to keep our families here, much less make this town family friendly. Thank you, Greg.
I'm David Poole. I'm a City Club member. As one of the entrepreneurs that has built a business on top of open source software, I appreciate your comments. This past fall, we actually had GOSCON, the Government Open Source Conference, here in Portland, bringing national and international attention. And I'm just wondering if Portland is ready at this point to do an assessment of the use of open source software and proprietary software in the city, and this coming fall, make a report and just let us know where we're at.
Thank you. It's my understanding that the City of Portland and our Bureau of Technology Services is looking at some applications using open source technology. I don't know to the degree that we're using it, but quite frankly, I'm interested in continuing to explore that with our technology services. And is Matt Lamp here? Matt Lamp, meet this guy. Matt Lamp is in charge of our Bureau of Technology Services, and I'd be very happy if you two could connect afterwards so that he could tell you even more. Thank you.
I'm Ray Polanyi, a City Club member,
Hi, Ray.
and a 52-year resident of Portland. A sustainable future vision requires a viable transportation alternative. We need money. A public transit system we need, which is fast and can accommodate many more riders. Money seems to be the problem. Well, I suggest a gas tax and a parking tax available to public transportation. Well, the crucial question is, will the citizens commit? I think they must. And my question to you is, will you lead?
Ray, first of all, thank you for treating me no different than you have any other mayor.
Prophets keep repeating themselves.
Which is my second point, don't try to match wits with Ray. But he makes a very good point about public transportation. I see a Portland's future where public transportation is the norm, where most people ride public transportation. You know, it took one ride on the streetcar, the new streetcars for me, to realize that we've got something going here in Portland. And I know we've got a wonderful light rail system, public transportation, that our class of bike lanes in the city is one of the highest in the United States. But we need more people out of their cars and on public transportation. The auditor publishes something called the Service Efforts and Accomplishments, and last year in their report indicated that 70% of the people who drive to downtown Portland still drive alone in their car. And I was told, that's a pretty good number. Where? When you go to Amsterdam and other cities around the world, you see them on bikes, you see the public transportation. That's how most people get around. My commitment, Ray, is to work to continue, and our council members are very strong supporters of this, to look for alternative transportation forms that will accommodate the individual needs of a very eclectic Portland. So we are working on that. It's interesting that the gas tax in the state of Oregon hasn't been raised in, I think, 12 years. I think, and that's what our Department of Transportation depends upon for its funding. And yet, for 12 years now, that tax has remained static, while the cost of repairing roads, that's why in Portland, out of our 2,400 miles of roads that are inside the city, 600 of them require maintenance, and that we're trying to find the dollars, and Commissioner Adams is working on that very issue. But we need to find a mechanism to ensure that our public transportation is strong. I would love to see a streetcar in every neighborhood in Portland. I would love that. And in fact, where I live in Woodstock, the street I live on used to service one of the trolleys that came out into that area of southeast Portland. And so in the old days, people recognized this value. I think it's going to come back because I think people have to do something differently, and we have to do something about the emission of hydrocarbons in our atmosphere, and that's a good way to start. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
My name is Angela Wyckoff, and I'm a City Club member. And I would like to ask you how you view the relationship between Portland State University and the city, and how PSU can help the city achieve its goals.
Thank you, Angela. I know that Dr. Bernstein is here. Did he put you up to that? No. Dr. Bernstein, I know you're here, and you could probably answer this as well as I, but I think we've got a great relationship. We understand that PSU and the City of Portland do have a very special relationship. They are the community's university, and that we think that the possibilities for partnership have really only begun, is that we want to help PSU realize its dreams, and we want PSU to help the community realize its dreams. I look forward to talking with Dr. Bernstein and other members of PSU and ensuring that as we build our community, that we do not forget of the resources that our universities here in Portland have, particularly Portland State University. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm Bill Crane, a City Club member and a working artist. I want to give you the chance to talk about art, music, theater, and dance in our city because somehow you didn't get to mention that today, and that's such a big part of how the city is so wonderful. What do you want working artists, musicians, dancers, and theater people and poets to do to make our city better?
Well, not only the working artists, dancers, and theater people, but those who aren't working, and that seems to be even high in number, is that I think that art and culture in our community is one of those core values that we cannot ignore or relegate to second position. To that end, over the last year, in addition to the amount of money that we've given to RAC, the Regional Arts Council, for their programs, we have given additional monies to the opera and to other organizations such as Time-Based Art in our city so that we could further their efforts. And that I have appeared at a number of fundraising functions, is that art and culture is such an essential element to a healthy community. It means that we expand our appreciation for things that not only affect us on a daily life, but throughout our lives. I met with a group from RAC a few months ago, my wife and I did, and we were talking about, and they said something that really struck me, and it's very true, and that is this, that art isn't something that you go to see, that it's all around you. And that's what we need to do, is to ensure that we are surrounded by art, by our cultural heritages that we so strongly have in our community, and ensure that they do not become weak or go away. Recently, the Portland Art Museum opened up the Pete Mark wing of the old Masonic Lodge. And they raised over $40 million in this community to pay for that wing. That's the kind of support that Portlanders have for arts and culture here. And that's the kind of support that I believe this City Council really believes strongly in supporting and ensuring its continuance. One more question.
My name is Gavin White. I'm a City Club member. I'm also chair of the Multnomah County Democrats. I want to thank you, Mayor Potter, for your visionary leadership as mayor of the city. You spoke today about vision and about taking personal responsibility. One example of visionary leadership and taking personal responsibility is the actions of an entrepreneur starting up a small business, and you spoke about that too. The importance of supporting women and minorities in entrepreneurship. I'm wondering, what can we expect in the coming year in support of that? Are we going to see set-asides? Might we see, and in what ways might we see resources dedicated to supporting businesses outside the city core?
Thank you, Gavin. One of my dreams in this coming year, and it may take several years, and I want to do this throughout Portland, but I want to start with one place in particular, and that's Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. I don't know how many of you have a chance to go around the country and look at the other MLKs around our country. Is that many of them do not show the respect to Dr. King that is due. I would like MLK in Portland, Oregon, to be the best-looking MLK in the United States. And to do this, there requires a couple of things. First is that I've been working with the Portland Development Commission, and we've actually taken several drives along MLK to locate PDC property that is owned by PDC. And I am working with them, and they are very open to the idea of taking some of that property, converting it and chunking it down into small parcels so that small businesses can lease to own businesses from the community that surrounds MLK. So that's one thing that we're doing. To me, it is so important that we begin to invest in our small businesses. And I think that the small businesses along MLK, we could see a revival like we have along North Mississippi and Northeast Alberta on MLK. And having been around the city for 40 years now, I can tell you many people have tried, but not many people have engaged the community in helping make that choice. So I am committed to working with our community, with PDC, with planning, with all the different parts of our city to ensure that we have healthy, strong, small businesses along MLK, and that we learn the lessons there that we can take to other parts of Portland, and that we can truly make 82nd Avenue an avenue of roses that we recently designated. There are a lot of opportunities out there, and we need a lot of good people to help us. Thank you, Gavin, and thank you, folks.
Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, Mayor Potter. We're adjourned.